Hello everyone watching at home, you're with Adelaide Eternal bringing you our Highlander challenge for March. I'm Sarven McLinton and I'm in the booth here with Beckett, Wolfe.
G'day guys.
In the feature match area we have James Arthur on the right and I'm on the left, and James Arthur is in our Hall of Heroes.
Well, he's the reigning champ. He's got the last cycle's Highlander victory with the same deck. He's on Kess Pile.
As we can see, he loves his control.
He loves his control. Snapcaster Mage favourite card. He's a blue mage at heart, obviously. And if you want to check out the list, I think his list is a little bit different to the Kess Pile one we did deck tech on. So you can have a look at that, but it's very similar and it runs the same basic idea. So check out that video if you want to understand the interactions. But basically, it's a control value deck. Of course, we have Sarven McLinton, who's our reigning champ of the challenges in general. Not Highlander's reigning champ right now, but he is the titan of Adelaide Eternal with the most victories, the most top 8s. And he's on a really sweet, spicy brew of his called Annihilator 6. Do you want to go through that for us, Sav?
Sweet, yeah. So Annihilator 6. If you haven't seen this deck before, I won another local tournament, another Highlander, about a month ago with this. And so I'm just running it back again. I only made one change since then. And the deck is pretty sweet. So basically it is a blue-red control shell with a similar kind of Blood Moon package because you're on only 2 colours. However, it's got 2 different axes. The first is it uses turbo mana to power out a Blood Moon on turn 1, taking a leaf from the Book of Dragon Stompy. So off Chrome Mox, Lotus Petal, Simian Spirit Guide, Ancient Tomb and City of Traders, you can quite consistently get a Blood Moon or Back to Basics out on turn 2, and very occasionally you get them out on turn 1. And turn 1 on the play, having a Blood Moon is pretty insane. Doing exactly the same thing with Blood Sun as well is awesome, because an early Blood Sun is backbreaking for opponents' fetch lands. A late game Blood Sun is a cantrip. So it really just depends on when you draw it. It's always been good for me. And then the other half of the deck is its win con. So it's called Annihilator 6 because it's the word that you will utter at the end of every game. So you'll basically turn something sideways and you go Annihilator 6.
I wonder what that is.
Yeah, that's right. So Emrakul is your win con. Normally what happens is blue-red control decks. I've played the blue-red control in the past, and the thing that I liked about it was its control shell. The things I didn't like about it was when you couldn't turbo out a Blood Moon early to make it an effective lock piece. And so what you do is you keep that principle, but you can do it faster. And then you have the other downside of the blue-red, which I found was you'd never get free wins. Aside from, because you're not turboing out your Blood Moons as well, and you don't have a free win con, I wanted one. So instead I have Sneak Attack and Emrakul. And the best thing is that this is a control mirror breaker because control is really dominant in Adelaide. So what you do is you resolve a Sneak Attack, and Grixis players cry because Sneak Attack can't be answered by them because it's an enchantment. And you just pay one somewhere later down the track, later on in the game, you activate it and kill them with Emrakul. And sometimes you just activate it and play Torrential Gear Hulk to save on mana so that you can flash back a Mystic Confluence and draw 3 cards at the end of their turn, or flash it in and then attack their Jace for 5 out of nowhere. They're not expecting you to have a haste attacker. So there's a lot of cool things you can do. Then you have a Cunning Wish package. So you can wish for things in game 1, which is useful. And the sideboard there you'll see is pretty eclectic. But also it's another win con. Cunning Wish by itself fetches Through the Breach, and you use Through the Breach to win with Emrakul. So that's essentially it. And the advantage obviously is that with Izzet Charm, Dak Faden and Desolate Lighthouse, you can loot away the wrong half of your deck and play consistently like a blue-red control deck when you don't want to have the card disadvantage of fast mana or the card disadvantage of one half of a combo piece.
Well, let's go down to the games. I think
right.
if you're gonna brew, Highlander's the time to brew, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, that's right. So we've drawn our 7. There's a fist bump, and we're ready to see a brew against an established juggernaut of the field. Grixis control is the juggernaut, is the control deck. So that's an awesome hand, right? It's got an evasive action, some lands. I've got Ponder, Izzet Charm, Force of Will, Ancient Tomb, Direfleet Daredevil, and another land as well.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we talk about in the control mirror how hitting your land drops is so relevant. How does Ancient Tomb factor into that? Because you are a control shell, but you're a combat deck. Do you find that the Ancient Tomb hurts because you're not hitting that mana, the coloured mana, or is it, hey, I'm actually ahead on my curve here in a control mirror?
I have found that in a control mirror, Ancient Tomb, the City of Traders is the vulnerable one, so I usually play that later in the game. You don't want to play it too early unless you got a Blood Moon turn 1. But I've found Ancient Tomb the downside has like literally never hurt me at all in the, I don't know how many 50 or so games I've played in the last two like I haven't died to the life loss critical from it, and I haven't had an issue from the colour because it's only 2 colours.
Is that a memory plunder or is that a force of will?
Force of will altered.
Oh, it's an altered art. I thought it was. Have you heard?
Yeah, I know memory plunder.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was memory plunder at first. Yes, you obviously no need to play the Ancient Tomb out just yet. But I imagine in a control shell, the life won't matter a huge amount. Of course,
sometimes you just play the Ancient Tomb on turn 2 and you just Cunning Wish at the end of their turn on turn 2, which is really fast. Like fast Cunning Wishes are good. A lot of the time, your dirtily cards like Cunning Wish and Sneak Attack and other things, they have a lot of colourless in them. There's my hand again. So Censor, Snapcaster Mage, Force of Will, Direfleet Daredevil, Is It Charm, and
you're not pondering here because you want to keep up Censor for something like 3 mana, Vidalcan Shackles or Ashiok or something like that.
Yes, and also I'm notorious for never playing my cantrips out until the late game. So I have Ponder in hand. I did not play it turn 1, and I probably won't play it for a very long time.
Yeah, look, I've got.
There's no need to.
I've got to agree. I mean, obviously, I think cards like Serum Visions and cantrips like that are better late. That's when you want to see them. You draw it, and you're like, yes, sweet. I can do a Serum Vision. I can do a Preordained Ponder. And I've actually got like 4 or 5 mana to cast this thing that I've pondered into. Yep. But, early game, it helps you hit your land drops if you're on control. Here, you've got no trouble hitting your land drops, so there's no real need to play it just yet.
And so talking about playing things just yet, my hand is stacked. I've got Jason Mind Sculptor, Snapcaster Mage, etc., etc. Notice the jump in mana. So I played Ancient Tomb, and I went from 3 to 4. I went from 3 to 5 mana in that. And at the moment I played the Ancient Tomb, I remember James being like, whoa, the Slice comes out, but it's noticeable how huge that is. This is end of turn cycle Censor. And yeah, my hand is stacked, but remember how we were talking about when to go for it? There is no incentive whatsoever for me to play Jason Mind Sculptor or
That's right, he's totally untapped and there's no pressure on the board.
Yeah, I'm literally going to play lands for the rest of the game until such time as I miss a land drop. If I'm going to miss a land drop, I'll play Ponder to find the land drop, and then I'll continue to play my land drops. Then the moment I don't play my land drops, then we start considering discarding. And then once we start discarding, and eventually James will do something, and then I will act. But there's no incentive to act.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's an interesting one because when you've got lands and spells and you like your hand, what is the point of really playing a Ponder or Preordained? Because you don't really know what you're looking for. If you're playing a combat deck and you're looking for that other piece, then fine. But if you don't actually know what you're looking for, if your hand's good, do you need a brainstorm?
Yeah.
Do you
Think
need
about
a ponder?
it here. James has played nothing this game aside from the Serum Visions at the beginning. What exactly would I like to see or not like to see on the top of my deck with my Ponder? Lands? Not lands? Like spell? Like, I don't know. So there's no point to play
Sometimes
Ponder.
you look at 3 and you're like, they're not great and they're not bad.
Yeah, so you basically didn't actually achieve anything with a Ponder.
That's right.
But the moment that he plays like an Ashiok or something, I'm like, I need to find an answer. Okay, so he's missed his land drop here. So this is, am I right there? Was that end of turn fetch last turn, right? So yeah, he's missed his land drop. Or no, I was on the play, so it's 5. No, okay, so he has not missed his land drop.
3 mana, it's just going to be Blood Moon?
Yep, well, we got 1 colourless floating, Direfleet Daredevil.
Oh, he's a new one.
Yep, so this is actually my bait spell, because remember how my hand is stacked, I've got Jace, I've got other things, so I'm just going to play Direfleet with 1 mana floating and see if it resolves. And it turns out it resolves.
That's really good.
And this is exactly what I want to see, because if you play your not very big threat and you just get it for marginal value, you're going to incrementally get more and more and more marginal value for the rest of the game.
It's also
because
going
they have to counter it at some
also,
point.
I mean, he could have an efficient removal like Fatal Push Up Bolt, and that's why Fatal Push and Bolt are good. But eventually he's going to have to remove this. It puts pressure on his Planeswalkers, and, it sort of encourages James to start making a play a bit earlier than he wants to.
Correct. And that's why Ancient Tomb is actually really useful here. So I think you note that I missed a land drop here, and that's why I was forced to act. And to act, I want to play the least valuable thing, right? And right here it's Direfleet.
And I think, you're really happy about having that resolve. And
Yeah.
you even get the Serum Visions to help you set up to find that land for the next one anyway. So even though I think you didn't hit the land off the Serum as well, you're still setting up for the next turn, which is really, really handy. And you still got like force backup and stuff. Here we go. And now he's killing it, which switches on more of your counterspell if you want. But you don't actually have to.
Exactly.
The choice is yours.
The choice is mine, and I'm more than happy with this trade for.
It's not a 1-for-1 at all, is it?
Yeah,
it's 2-for-1.
It's 2-for-1. So I still got a 2-for-1 there, and I keep all my mana open, and I end of turn discard Simian Spirit Guide.
Yeah, that's right. And it might sound like, Sarv, maybe you didn't get the card advantage off it after all because you didn't
got looting.
But looting's good. Like you discard your worst card.
And this is critical here as well because James missed his land drop. So when people miss land drops, that's when control starts to get antsy. You have to make a decision between discarding or doing things.
Doing suboptimal things,
yeah,
really.
That's it. So I hit a land here, so that works out well. All because of the Serum Visions, it managed to let me scry the land to the top.
Yeah, it's very interesting how these play out. And it seems like not much is happening, but there's actually a lot of mind games and, a lot of like, do I want to do this? Do I want to like bolt, snap, bolt? Something like that and put some pressure on, or is it more important to keep the card advantage? You're not sure when you should switch over. Here's Jace. That's a big call from you.
Well, you can see the power of Ancient Tomb here. So I know that I'm winning on mana here because I actually have access to 7. He's got access to 5. So I know that I'm pretty sure I can win a fight over this.
Especially with Force of Will.
Yeah, I've got Force of Will and I've got Izzet Charm and I've got
Snack.
Snack
it up.
Yeah, spell Snack that guy.
He's worried.
I'll build a stack here.
Because he might well have another counter spell, but he's going, I can counter twice, and now he's like, hang on.
Yeah, this is one of my intimidation tools that I use on coverage. Whenever someone starts to put a counter spell, I build the stack. Because what you're telling your opponent is, I have counters and I'm going to fight over this. And then you mind game them into not fighting over it. In reality, you didn't have any counters. Here you can see I do have counters. And whether or not I do fight over it is another thing.
And now you've got Izzet Charm.
Yeah, I can leverage Izzet Charm. So remember how there's a philosophy with control where you're like, do you ever tap out and so on and so forth. Yes, you can tap out if you are going to win the war and if you finish that war with a finisher.
A relevant permanent. And I don't think there's too many more relevant permanents in a control mirror, especially than Jace the Mind Sculptor. He's not playing a combo, so he's not. There's no free win. He can't just go like untap through the breach or
correct
untap Kiki Jiki you.
Also, I wouldn't ever do this in game 2 because Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast are a thing, and you just lose your Jace.
Although you do have Misstep in hand.
I do have Misstep, but you
I feel like I'd be alright doing this.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't tap out.
You got Force and Misstep.
Because if he goes untap and Keranos, those kind of things are things that you just really don't want to see. But in game 1, I'm happy with this because the answers for it are Dreadball and what else? What other answers are? Creeping Tar Pit, which doesn't exist on the battlefield.
Bolts and Chains. I don't think he runs Chain, but he could run Chain.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I know what you mean. I mean, you still got Force and Misstep back up there.
If I didn't have Misstep, I'd Fate Seal, but I have Misstep, so I definitely don't mind about Bolt here. So yeah, Misstep, Force, Mana Leak, Land.
So it's looked a little bit land heavy, but obviously you've got the Jason.
Yeah, and
that'll smooth it out pretty well.
Well, mainly because I brainstormed and I didn't put land back because he could Thoughtseize me.
Is this something you actually care about? Because I think it's perfectly reasonable to force the threat, but I think...
I let it resolve.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because you can unsummon it, and he can't delve forever. You can also brainstorm, find an answer, find a blocker.
But also I don't want to... So I put Snapcaster on top because I didn't want to get Thoughtseize. What I don't do there is I don't force that, and then he untaps and plays Jace.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
always do that. Once you're in the driver's seat, which is with Jace, if I'm in the driver's seat, I go, how do I lose?
Well, you also had a lot of mana up.
Yeah, well, that's what
to recounter the Force.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
No reason to fight.
I don't like unsummoning here when you can chump with Snap, but, worst case scenario, you don't find an answer, and you still get to unsummon, and he can't replay there you go, he can't replay the Tasica forever. You've got the answer for it, and now you're got like heaps of mana untapped, and you've still got the Jace permanent.
The main thing is do nothing.
You've untapped with Jace.
If you untap with Jace, don't do anything because they will always try and fight something over at the end of your turn. And as you noticed, he had Counterspell in the graveyard, and if I had tried to do something, I would have got countered, and Snapcaster would have attacked Jace.
So is he going Snap for no value just to kill Jace?
Yes.
All right, but
He-
that's
he needs
awful
to.
because
He
now
just has to.
no, of course,
Yeah.
but now you get to go snap. Is it charm it? Or better yet, he tries to cast a spell and
I've got a braid. So a braid is a very low value card in this situation. So you just kind of use it.
No, that's fair. That's fair because I guess snap could be better, but a braid's not getting any better than that, is it?
Yeah, a braid is basically its target is Vidalcan Shackles, but I don't mind about that because I can
Snap
do
it back.
something like so using.
And I don't
braid
think.
is very
I
good.
mean, shackles here, I think would not be great.
Yeah,
Tar Pit's an interesting one.
Yep, Tar
I
Pit
think
is
it's a little
strong.
bit slow,
yeah.
but at least it's something.
What I want him to do is start tapping out and attacking with Tar Pit. This is a good thing for me. But here I've finally got a stable board state. So what do? Brainstorm, do nothing. That's the whole point. Once you got Jace, you're ahead. Don't do anything else because
I couldn't agree more.
Make
Well,
them
Jace has
answer
just
it.
become unbanned in Modern, and I've been playing a lot of it and noticing that people sort of don't really know how to play with Jace that well, and they seem to Fate Seal to keep their Jace alive, unsummon to keep their Jace alive. And I'm thinking, well, what's the point of keeping it alive if all you're doing is Fate Sealing? Because Fate Sealing, let's be honest, I reckon it's probably one of the worst Planeswalker abilities ever. Like it's
Unless
really,
you're ahead.
like it's
Then
really
you just
not
Fate
that
Seal their
good.
lands.
It's really because it's inconsistent. You Fate Seal the top, and you sink a threat, and then they could still draw a threat, or they could still draw the thing you're scared of. So it's really not that good, and I think you're better off brainstorming, try to find the answer, or keep up counter spells. Like here, yes, he can kill Jace with Tar Pit, but if he brainstorms, Sarv's now got the card advantage to fight over this cryptic, and then to fight over to kill the Tar Pit.
If in doubt, if you don't know what to do, brainstorm.
And and then let's say in some magical world, James has got daze and force and misdirection, and he's got all these cheap ways to win the fight. He's out of cards, and Sarv's still got cards in hand. And here we go, efficient use of mana here with mana leak, and he's still got mana up.
Remember how we were talking about if you miss your land drop and so on and so forth, because I've got Ancient Tomb and I can power through the amount of mana, I actually have dramatically more mana, and brainstorming with Jace and Serum Visionsing with the Dire Fleet, all of these have been to get me more mana.
And you've been very patient with the Force of Will as well. I think it's a really good game. I want to show some modern players this and just show them this is how you're supposed to play with Jace.
How do you play a control mech?
Don't just Fate Seal to play around Bolt,
Yeah, control mirrors are one of the most punishing things in Magic, and if you don't play them well, you can just lose, but you don't realize you've lost. So yeah, I'm just snapcastering here, and remember I've got a braid and Is It Charm in the graveyard, so spoiled for choice there and what to do. And James has 2 mana open, but remember every time he does stuff, I'm forcing him to answer my finisher. And my finisher is Jace, who's going to brainstorm for the rest of the game.
That's right.
And I'm just going to simply protect this, but I'm not going to do anything else.
He still hasn't
Don't do
got
anything.
5 lands.
Yeah.
And you're hitting Jaces, which means you're hitting land drops and answers.
Yep, that's it. So
I mean, we don't need to explain why Jace is good. I think the important point is, how to make Jace optimal.
yes, absolutely. And never tap out, never surrender. Here we go.
And again, I think this is another. You could force this, but again, it's almost like another threat.
Yeah.
That you don't have to. Sport for choice.
Why do I want to use my Force of Will?
Yeah.
Why do I want to use anything?
Use
So
your
just let
Force
it
of Will
resolve.
for something that actually beats the Jace. Because right now, Tasiga gets unsummoned by Jace. Or just chump blocked.
Yeah, use the rule. How do I lose, or how do I punt? And my way to lose is I lose Jace, or he resolves a threat that I can't deal with. And
That's right.
That's what Force of Will's in my hand for. I just want to keep using Jace to brainstorm or bounce his Tasiga, slow him down, and guess what? My win con is here.
Yeah.
Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Thoughtseize is strong.
It's going to eat a misstep, I think.
Yeah. And I'll mental misstep here for... do I do it for life or mana?
You probably don't tap Ancient Tomb for that.
No, it doesn't work. I think I'm counting up my mana because remember I have hardcast Force of Will and so I'm going to use life. And even though you look at my board and I'm like, you have 9 mana. You have 9 mana. Why do you not pay? No, I'm not going to pay. I pay enough vintage to know that you don't pay mana for this. Because my hand is Force of Will, Mystic Confluence, and something else.
That's right. He's got no threats on the board. He's not doing anything. And here it is, another task.
Yeah, it's been cast 3 times in the game.
Yeah.
And
But
this
he's
is what
tapping
I
out
wanted to
for it.
see.
So he's losing
So
tempo.
finally I use an actual
Yeah.
hard cast way to finish this guy off. And it's just counter it unless you pay 3 and I'll draw 2 cards. So...
Yeah, very well played, I think. being very patient with that force will, and I couldn't agree more. Save the don't just go like, oh, he plays a spell, I force of will.
Yeah.
It's can you deal with it?
Strategically figure out, what can you deal with, what can't you deal with, and what protects your threats, what doesn't protect your threat. Do you have a threat yet?
And you're sort of just bleeding James out of it. Yeah. And the thing is, you need to have the end game, right? You can't just do this forever. You can't just do this forever. But the truth is, you are consistently bleeding James out of threat, and eventually he's just going to be in top deck mode.
Yeah. Well, James still has like 2 or 3 cards in his hand. I think 2 cards. Three cards in his hand. And
I guess the point is you do have a game plan.
Yes.
It's not just remand forever, No. You have a legitimate game plan. You're working towards something. And, Snap could go the way here as well.
Yeah, well, that's the plan. I mean, I'm not going to ever commit to the board anymore, am I? Because I've got my win con and I've got my Howling Mine effect both on the battlefield. And the only commitment I'm going to do is actually lock him out. So actually have a way to lock out him to literally blue, black, which he can't do anything with, really.
And turn that nice Ancient Tomb into a beautiful mountain as well.
That's the plan. And that's why I've really not cared about Ancient Tomb. It's just always going to be strong. It's always going to
and you have a pretty stable life. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Ancient Tomb is not godlike. It's still going to be pretty bad in against Zoo or something like that.
Yeah. No, not necessarily, because if it's
I know what you
one,
mean. Yeah, you still get to power at it through the breach in your deck, and I think it's a great choice. But...
And this is what we're talking about. Remember how I was saying, what about those cards you can't beat? So if I didn't have miscalculation here, I would have had 5 mana up to hard cast Force of Will and counter the big delve threat, because I would have had to spend my Jace counter to actually bounce that thing, otherwise it would die. And so here's the writing on the wall, really. It's just a matter of
that's right. And I think even here a lot of people could make the mistake of going, well, now I want to Fate Seal Jace so that I can unsummon again. No. But if you brainstorm, you're going to find the same answers as an unsummon would. It'll fit the same role. You'll find a kill spell or a counter spell, for the thing that you want to unsummon. So just brainstorm forever.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, James offloads his hand, has absolutely out of gas, kills Jace, and you just win with
Snapcaster Mage attack.
With I have heaps of lands, I have Snap, I have Blood Moon, I have mana.
So that was a pretty lackluster dig through time. It was
What'd you find?
Fire and Ice.
It's pretty bad.
Something else, yeah. But that's the thing. I literally don't care. I'm literally doing this to just lock the game
back
up.
To basics, which
so I've still got Emrakul in hand.
See, back to basics isn't amazing because it's got a lot of basics, but I feel like just tapping those 3s is could actually be relevant because he definitely can't put any threats out that cost 3. Are you thinking about back to basics here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, you got to. Yeah. I mean, whatever he's out to something like, he doesn't run ACall, but something like ACall, Gearhulk, ACall.
Yeah. These are definitely
getting it through, but he's not going to be able to do that with 3 mana. There's another just in case he's.
Yep. So this is solely to make a 2/2. I'm going to deploy a 2/2. I would play back to basics here, or I won't. It depends. It's all about whether or not I want to just play my 2/2. And remember that I've actually used up, because these were all systematic, I've used up all my counter spells. All I have is Force of Will in hand. So now I actually do this and go shields down, because if I leave my mana up, I'm going to be going and still trying to win with this 1-2-1.
I think he did it the wrong way around. He untapped his Storm Basics and tapped his... Anyway, he sees the writing on the wall, so that's down to game 2. Sideboards, mate. Yeah.
Well, I joked with James and I said, you didn't even see my deck. You only saw Jason Snapcaster. I could be any blue-red control deck. And I said, I promise you, I'm not running a cookie cutter, default list. It's not just Blue Moon. And he kind of made a funny comment as well about how I had Ancient Tomb. So he knew that I was on something strange, something different. And I said, look, I promise there's something, but I just can't tell you, but I'll tell you afterwards. If you don't see it, I'll tell you afterwards. But this was an example of the kind of game where actually, if it lines up correctly, then you just play like an established deck. And in this one I was playing like Blue Moon. But as you noted, I discarded Simian Spirit Guide. I floated Lotus Petal and Emrakul on top of my deck, and then I shuffled away the Lotus Petal, I think, at some point. So the advantage of being a blue shell allows you to, with looting and card selection, you can draw the correct half of your deck.
That's right. I mean, different different types of different archetypes and combos have better matchups against different things. So if you have a versatile deck like this, as you say, you can swap into that control shell.
Absolutely. In terms of sideboarding, now I know a lot of people who play with wish cards. Cunning Wish or the Red Wish, whatever that one's called, Burning Wish, and they're very, very reluctant to bring cards. Oh, look, I'll keep a Pyroblast in the sideboard so that I can wish for that when I need it. No, just bring in all your good cards.
Especially in Highlander where you've only got one Cunning Wish.
Exactly. So he's bringing in the standard stuff: Hand Disruption, a bigger finisher, and some Pyroblast and Rebs. So what I do is I just bring in all of my good anti-control cards and just keep Cunning Wish in there, because the cards I take out are marginal cards, but you can wish for them. So like if you let's say hypothetically, we'll probably see the actual cards that I bring in and take out, but let's say hypothetically you take out here we go. So taking out Cryptic Command, Mystic Confluence, Fiery Confluence, Abrade, Lotus Petal.
So essentially expensive cards and then non-value cards for cheap cards and a big haymaker in the way of Keranos.
That's it. So I brought in all the cheap interaction. I really hate Cryptic Command and Mystic Confluence and Control Mirrors. I know people like to keep them in, but I hate them.
I hate Cryptic. Yeah. I don't mind Mystic because it's an EOT, draw, and then you can untap and play something. But I definitely hate Cryptic.
Yeah,
sure.
the number of times that your Mystic Confluence gets censored, miscalculated, is it charmed, mana leaked, it's just bad. But I can see people wanting to keep just one in there just so that they have that kind of, top end, way to seal the game. But for me, I'd rather just, instead of paying 5 mana end of their turn, I'd rather just go, I'll just slam this Keranos. The other thing is, for me specifically, as you saw, I took out those high-end stuff. I brought in the low-end stuff, but I did not shape my sideboarding at all around Cunning Wish. I literally ignore that Cunning Wish is in my deck, because you're always going to take out some instant and you're always going to bring in some instants. So bring in your good cards, and if you need to, wish for the cards that you sideboarded out. It's okay. You're always going to wish for the
You've got the same amount of
Keep
cunning.
the good stuff.
You've got the same amount of Cunning Wishes as you do, Flusterstorms. Yeah. So you might as well just draw the Flusterstorm instead of
bring in the good cards, play with the good cards.
Because Cunning Wish, as good as it is, it's a 3-mana spell.
But yeah, you can always wish for.
Do you keep in Through the Breach in the sideboard?
It depends on the matchup. But in this matchup, yes, definitely, because Cunning Wish will find it. So this is a good hand. It's got True Name Nemesis, Thoughtseize, and my hand is lands and a high-end threat Keranos and a Pyroblast with it.
Yeah, I saw Miscalc, Flusterstorm, Simian Spirit Guide, Island, Mountain, Keranos. So it's a decent hand. Although James has got a Thoughtseize, so we're definitely going to be able to have a look at it very soon, I imagine.
Yeah, he's probably going to take something that can interact with True Name Nemesis, because for him, he knows that in this post-sideboarded game, I don't have, crazy Toxic Deluge Overload. Well, I don't have Toxic Deluge at all in the deck, but I don't have many answers for True Name Nemesis. So if he can protect his True Name Nemesis from counterspells and then from, other kinds of interaction.
So you're thinking of Miscalc. Oh, okay, Ponder first.
Yep. So this is, it's a shuffle because it's no land.
I was going to say him and Red Elemental seem pretty good there, but if he needs cards, the lands,
but he needs the land. He definitely needs the land. I mean, this is one of the mistakes that people make, which James is not making. He's correctly assessed that hitting a land drop every turn is one of the most important things in the game, which is why when you're in Control Mirrors, you never keep a hand with 2 land or less. You just don't do it. Unless you have 2 preordained type effects to find those lands, but you don't want to be sitting there wasting those preordains just to find lands. You just mull to 6 and keep a hand with 3 or 4 lands in it.
It's like what we were saying before, where Relic's pretty good here, especially against the Grixis, because he's got a lot of delve. He's got Tombstalker, Gurmag, Tass, Dig Through Time, Treasure Cruise, Snap. Yeah, that's a lot of graveyard. So he's got Duress here. So here's a hand. Okay, Miscalc, Flusterstorm, Keranos, Direfleet, Daredevil, Simian Spirit Guide, Mountain. So I'm low on lands, and there is a temptation for me to crack that relic in order to find my 3rd land drop. All depends on exactly what I find. But he's basically choosing between Flusterstorm and Miscalc. I mean, you can keep up Miscalc and end of turn crack relic, or even cycle it. Yep, absolutely. Another option is Direfleet, Daredevil, exile Simian Spirit Guide, play his Ponder. Find your land drop. I'm not going to say at all what I do,
You might have identified a line. So remember, I value land drops so highly in control mirrors to the point that I mull to 6, mull to 5 to make sure I got a hand that is heavy on lands. 3 lands, 4 lands, 5 lands sometimes. It just depends on how many cards you're going down to, obviously. But I have a number of ways to find that through cycling, through Direfleet, through Relic. I did not draw a land here, which does not bode well. So we'll see exactly what I do. But remember, he is on...
And he took the miscount.
Yeah.
So you lost that cycle
option.
The cycle option.
So he's denying me land drops. So note here that I am casting Direfleet Daredevil, and I'm doing it, and I said I'm targeting your Ponder, and I'm exiling Simian Spirit Guide to hit the Ponder.
Yeah, I like that play. Very proactive. You hit your land drop. You lose card advantage in the form of Simian, but you get it back in the form of Ponder.
Exactly.
And you get
it's card parity. It's card parity. I have a first strike 2/1, and I make sure that I hit my 3rd land drop because
and you weren't really
so
doing
critical.
much with that turn otherwise, I think.
Yeah.
You don't really want to just exile Relic, hope to hit a land drop.
Absolutely. And Relic is so important in this matchup, obviously, for managing the Delve. So yeah, as you can see, I found that land drop that I needed. And then I activate. So note here that I did not activate Relic before because he could have exiled the Ponder. I was definitely thinking about duressing him, but it was not on my.
Yeah, I think duress is reasonable there, but I totally agree. I think
more
more important for you to progress your board because if you duress him and you see like 2 things you want to take, a great hand with lands and spells with multiple things you want to take, did duress really achieve all that much? Yeah. Don't get me wrong, duress is great in the control mirror, but is it more important than you progressing your board?
And I'm on the play as well. And if I progress my board state to ensure that I have my 3rd land drop, then my 4th land drop.
So no misstep there?
No.
Why is that?
So a lot of thoughts here. My misstep is extremely valuable if he doesn't. So I was reading to see whether or not he's going to make his 2nd land drop because he did his Thoughtseize before his land drop. And I thought to myself, what if you don't actually have a 2nd land? If you don't, then I'm going to get a free win here by keeping Misstep to Misstep a Preordain.
Yeah.
So I've read this. The odds of getting a free win were higher.
And now that Direfleet's way better because the game is so slow. Because, I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Hitting your land drops in control is very important, as we said. But if you don't have a threat, sometimes James can claw his way back. But because you've got that threat, now pressure's on. Now James is like, oh, God, I really desperately need a Preordain. Otherwise, I'm going to die to this Direfleet. He's not able to just go like, oh, Tassiger, because of the Relic. So you've definitely got him locked up. Really, he just needs to hit a Preordain on Ponder. You've even got a Flusterstorm for it.
That's why I have Misstep in hand and I got the Flusterstorm open. And another aspect was if he Thoughtseizes me and probably takes the Misstep anyway because he's protecting his Preordain, note that he loses 2 life. And that's actually a whole entire turn for Direfleet. Doesn't seem like much, but my hand was so meh anyway that he was going to take one of the cards I was going to counter it with anyway, so I'll make him lose 2 life.
Echoing Truth, not a great draw.
Yeah, I only brought that in because it's an answer to Keranos and other things that I can't answer.
I guess there's sideboard cards you might be worried about.
Sideboard cards are the thing I'm terrified of. So I bring in Echoing Truth because I'd rather have Echoing Truth than, say, Mystic Confluence. I want a 2-mana answer. Also, Echoing Truth, your own Direfleet Daredevil, is a really good play.
So now Inquisition, is this something you fluster or misstep? Because he's hit his 2nd land?
He already knows my hand. So he's either going to take Misstep or I'm going to Misstep him. He's either going to take Flusterstorm or I Flusterstorm him, right? So I just let him make the choice, right? And this is kind of like, you give me information. Because so you can see how my hand is superfluous. There's a lot of redundancy in it. Whichever one he takes will give me information on what his hand is like, rather than me making the decision of misstepping it or flusterstorming it. And just randomly, because that's a random choice, right, for me.
Is there a line where you swing for 2, Echoing Truth, you Direfleet, Inquisition?
Inquisition, yes, there is a line.
Okay.
I strongly consider this play at the end of turn. I strongly consider it.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
That Relic's doing work as well.
No, I'm just going to activate the Relic. Yeah. Because,
Jace with the Flusterstorm. Oh, he's taking Flusterstorm. So Jace with the misstep back up.
So this is where I regret it. I go, oh man, if I misstepped it, I would have had Flusterstorm. But And how am I to know that Jace is on top of my deck, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
And I think, there's a good chance you got Pyroblast, which you can misstep anyway.
Misstep.
But yeah, I think maybe misstepping that second time was probably correct.
Yeah. I think I was like, oh, give me information. It might have been cute, but I got information, which was that he doesn't mind about mental misstep. So here I get to brainstorm, obviously, and I got a fetch land that I've kept uncracked for a couple of turns there, waiting to use it. But at the end of the day, I'm saying Direfleet Daredevil was my win con. Note here that he has had True Name Nemesis in his hand since the beginning.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And
Now, he is obviously afraid of me cracking and pyroblasting it. However,
he's sort of out of
he's
options.
out of options. You just have to do it.
Yeah, I agree. The longer you wait, Pyroblast is always going to destroy it, and the longer you wait, the more Jace control you get. So
yeah, you know what the best part is? So if he resolves True Name here, he has to attack Jace, right? Direfleet Daredevil still gets to keep attacking.
You still get. You actually do get to race because then the Jace can Fate Seal. And I know we just spent the last game talking about how you don't want to Fate Seal that much, but in reality, Jace could just Fate Seal, which means True Name is a 1/1.
Yep.
Unblockable, and Direfleet's already had a good crack, so Direfleet would actually race it in reality.
Exactly. So you're basically, I'm saying, okay, yeah, sure, resolve True Name. That's the way that you can win the game. However, my Direfleet Daredevil has actually done you 10 damage.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking I might have
damage.
to add Direfleet Daredevil to my Grixis list.
Card is insane.
Give it a crack.
Everyone should be playing this card. It's so good. So here comes True Name, obviously naming me. I go, yeah, I don't have the Pyroblast, sucks to be me, but guess what? This is not my plan. My plan is to attack you. Yep, back to basics in hand.
Seems pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know whether I had it in hand or I brainstormed it. I can't remember, but if I had it, I still played Jace.
I think you brainstormed it because you ripped Jace, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So yeah, must have been brainstormed.
And do you shuff?
I draw this card. I think so. I can't remember what it was, but we will find out pretty soon. And here it gets interesting, right? This is where True Name Nemesis. You know how we're talking about threat assessment and you're going, okay, what are the axes and when do you pivot when you're in control and so on? I was the tempo deck, and then he's now created his True Name. I'm no longer the tempo deck. He's now the tempo deck because he's going to be winning with this Sulfuric Vortex one-way, 3 damage every turn. And so now I have to morph now. So I have to morph into a control deck. So pivoting is really, really important in control mirrors.
So you're leaving that on top. You were stifling him on land at the start.
Yep, now I'm not anymore.
I think it's a really good place up because, I couldn't agree more because people get very locked on to this like land destruction because they've been mana screwed before and they feel the pain of mana screw. And when you actively try, in Legacy with Wastelands and Stifles and stuff to keep or even in Modern when they've got land destruction decks, you got to accept that there's a point at which they're going to hit their land drops anyway. All right. You just need to do it when it's relevant. And this is a perfect example. You had your Direfleet Daredevil, you had your threats out, and you were able to stifle him on mana, not so much by your choice, but by his bad luck.
Well, he did keep a 1-land hand.
Of course.
1-land ponder hand.
But it was relevant then, and it's not relevant now.
Yes, yeah,
now he can draw lands for the rest of the game. He needs to draw answers now.
Definitely. So for those of you at home who have not played as many control mirrors, this is an example of what happens when you can keep a 1-land hand. Sometimes you just get punished because although that you had that ponder and you shuffle and you try and find your second land, sure, imagine if you did cast that ponder and it was okay. What if your opponent has Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, Flusterstorm, Mental Misstep? There's so many, they're on the play, you're on the draw. The odds of you keeping a 1-land hand and it panning out poorly are actually very high. So what you need to do is sometimes just mull to 6 and see what that's like.
Yeah, so here, you can sort of already see the maths laying out, but Direfleet's going to get in for another 2 probably, go down to 5. Jace can go up to 4. True Name would take it back down to 1, and then Jace can brainstorm
one last
and
time.
Direfleet would take him down to 3. So you still get another card advantage with Jace, and even then, True Name has to hit it from 1 to 0 to kill it. So the race just isn't really there, even for a great card like True Name.
Yeah, and this is where threat assessment becomes important as well, as we're talking about that again, is obviously, since the very beginning, or since turn 5, James has assessed that Jason Mind Sculptor is a threat and needs to be dealt with. At some point, you just have to change that mindset and go, actually, the threat is to my life total, and Direfleet Daredevil is the threat. So you need to actually keep the true name back.
And don't get me wrong, Jace is a better thret than Direfleet.
Yeah, definitely.
but not when you're on 1 though.
Yeah.
There's definitely a point at which Direfleet's a better threat. I think it's probably when you're on like somewhere between 5, like 5 under 5 wide.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think I'm fine with swinging at Jace. It's just such a shame that he can't finish that Jace off, because the point he finishes the Jace off is the point he should start thinking about keeping up blocks.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Because he wants to get in that one more with Jace, kill Jace, finish it off, it's done, but then he goes to 1.
Yeah.
Can he really win at 1? Ooh, technically he could, but not. Like in reality, no.
But end of term,
never
custom age or something.
Never shock, never fetch, play around snap, never get bolted. It's just not practical.
Yeah, that's right. So here we go, brainstormed, and I shuffled the deck, then I preordained, then that was last turn, sorry. So this turn, just draw a card and then brainstorm.
I'd be interested to know how much work that relic did. I've got a feeling it did a lot.
I think it did a lot too.
Because he's not really playing a huge amount, and he's got a lot of delve cards, so I'd be interested to know what he's got in hand.
And this is the vulnerability of playing a deck with 5 delve spells in it.
Yeah, it's tough.
5 delve.
We saw how powerful Tombstalker was in the previous match James played, and he crushed. Who did he play?
Yeah.
In the last. Anyway,
he was playing against Grumman.
He was playing against Grumman, and the 5/5 flying body of Tombstalker was fantastic. But it does have its downsides, which is that requires double black and it requires a lot of delve. And here you can see in a post sideboard match with an early relic, it's pretty strong.
Yeah, that's it. I was just saying, oh no, I can't actually exile that in your discard phase. It doesn't work that way. So we left the card in there. So yeah, attack to 1. So Jason Mind Sculptor is gone.
Yeah, he
However,
chose to kill Jace.
Remember the threat assessment.
Back to basics.
So I have the 2/1 on.
Yeah, that's it. And back to basics is out. So he's not really going to be able to compete. He's just choked on mana, and you've got the same amount of cards, but
him playing a Vidalcan Shackles or something here could be pretty strong.
Could it?
Ashiok? Yeah, well, I mean, because I got my win con is Direfleet attacking for 1.
Yeah, I guess. I've seen your hand, so I know that you've got Gear Hulk and...
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you obviously know. James is priced into actually playing this spell.
Yeah, he's got to play it.
Yeah. I think I brainstorm cards and I'm like, if I let this resolve and then you just exile my cards, because I got bad cards on top, so you could exile them. I was thinking that, but I'm like, nah, too cute. Just miscalc that. So that game was literally won by Direfleet Daredevil, right?
Yeah,
actually, both games, were won by Direfleet Daredevil.
He did a lot of damage.
So, for those at home who haven't yet put Direfleet Daredevil in your deck, I've been brewing this guy in pretty much every single deck I'm making. Direfleet goes in. It's
I'm gonna have to try him. We didn't even see you're playing a Through the Breach Emrakul. For those who didn't pick up on that, that's why it's called an IS6. As Sub was explaining at the start, we didn't even see it though. It just goes to show how playing good spells is good.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't need it. You don't
the
need
control
the
shell is there. And I was explaining, I was like, I'm sorry you didn't actually get to see my other half of my deck. But here it is. Cunning Wish for Through the Breach, Emrakul, people can't deal with sneak attack. This deck was made to prey on Grixis control, right? So it just makes it harder for them. They can't get through Blood Moon and they find it hard to deal with enchantments.
Well, guys, that was a really interesting game. I'm going to have to add Direfleet Daredevil to my Grixis list, I reckon. Thanks heaps for watching. We're Adelaide Eternal, and we'll see you in the next round.
Thanks, guys.